The Italian Premier, Giorgia Meloni, is in Washington. Later, she is going to be meeting with the US President, talking about defence, talking about tariffs. Joining us now to discuss expectations for the trip and what can be achieved, Matteo Renzi, former Italian Prime Minister and current leader of the centrist party Italia Viva. Senator Renzi has, remember, called on the EU to appoint a special envoy to negotiate with Donald Trump. The name he has in mind, you've probably heard of him, Mario Draghi. Matteo Renzi, thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning. Let's start off with the Prime Minister's trip to Washington. What are your expectations for what she can achieve?
Good morning, and thank you so much for inviting me. But I think this trip will be very difficult to imagine the follow-up, because with President Trump, for the traditional politicians, as myself, it's not easy to predict what he could do. It's a normal trip for a lot of reasons. It's normal to have a diplomatic dialogue between USA and Italy. In this case, a lot of storytelling and narrative in Italy. Imagine Giorgia Meloni could win this official trip with if Donald Trump will change idea. But it's not clear what type of idea Trump could change, because for the tariffs, I think it's a mistake for America and it's a mistake for Europe. And for the dialogue between Europe and the USA, it's not a competence of a single country. It's a competence of the European Commission. So we have to wait for a meeting between President Trump and President von der Leyen. As Italian, I hope the dialogue will be good, will be fine, but I don't believe this is a good time. Those are really crazy times, and Europe needs only one voice. That is the reason of my proposal for Mario Draghi as the only one special envoy for all the European Union.
One might think, though, that because Giorgia Meloni gets on well with Donald Trump, that maybe she can achieve more than maybe others could achieve. Mario Draghi, von der Leyen. I wonder whether this is about personalities. Trump has a different way of approaching these kinds of negotiations. You've seen that in his relationship with a whole range of leaders, that he requires a different approach, that he requires maybe, and people talk about people kissing the ring, that they go to Washington to pay homage to Donald Trump and not to build him up rather than knock him down. Do you think that Giorgia Meloni is better placed maybe to do that?
Maybe it's not easy. In my opinion, as Italian former prime minister, the idea to kissing ring is not the best idea to defend the national interest. But it's true, there is a very good relation in terms of political approach between sovereignists in Europe, as Giorgia Meloni, and sovereignists in USA as President Donald Trump. I think for the Italian business, for the Italian economy, that is not a good signal. Why? Because we don't need sovereignism and protectionism. We are a country based on the export. We are the country of fashion, of food, of manufacturing. For that reason, we need globalization. The real point is Giorgia Meloni won the election with a platform very clear, focused on protectionism and sovereignism. But now everyone in Italy understands for the Italian business, for the Italian interest, is better if we have globalization and not sovereignism. About the possibility Georgia could be better than others because she's very familiar and friendly with Trump, why not? If she will be able to achieve an agreement with Trump for the ideological reasons, okay, we are very happy. We will be very happy. But I don't believe in that, because the strategy of President Trump is a strategy, in my opinion, against globalization, and that is a problem for us.
OK, Matteo Renzi, can you imagine where the landing ground might be between the United States and Europe? Is a meeting place, what does it look like? There's been talk of removing tariffs entirely on industrial products. That hasn't made any progress yet. The US administration wants to sell more cars and food to Europe. What does a landing ground look like to you?
Not easy to understand. First of all, the agreement have to be with the European Union and not with only one country, because that is the rule of Europe. Second point, in my expectations, the most important thing which Trump could exchange with Europe is the gas. After the closing of a relation between Russia and Europe, the surplus of production of gas in USA could be in the hands of European countries. Why? Thinking about Europe, we're thinking about Italy. We produce only 25% of our needs in the energy. So we need more gas. In my opinion, if I know a little thing about geopolitics, Trump could try to exchange a reduction of tariffs with an agreement of gas and maybe also in defense, not about food, also because, okay, yes, he could try, but the quality of particularly Italian food is a quality, in my opinion, different for a lot of sectors respect to the food around the world.
So, OK, so that's your view there. Let me ask you about defence then. You mentioned defence as another area where some common ground could be found. How much more can Italy and how quickly should Italy spend more on defence? And do you think we will see a European army, a more substantial European army being formed here?
Two different things. About the first, yes, we have to arrive minimum to 2%. That is not a request of Trump or a proposal of Mrs. Meloni or Mrs. von der Leyen. This is an obligation we, as Europeans, we bring in 2014. Do you remember during the World NATO summit? So that is our obligation. We have to arrive to this point. About the European army, the question on the table is what is the future of NATO? Because in 2019, with the presidency of Donald Trump, with the president, I remember an interview of President Macron who used to say NATO is died, is a brain death, you remember. After Russian invasion in Ukraine, everything is changed. But the question is what type of NATO we will imagine for the next years. If there is a future for NATO, okay. In my opinion, Europe has to be more close in the organization of army. And I have a dream. My dream is the United States of Europe. My dream is European army. But to arrive to this dream, we need step by step. The first is combined together the investment in defense of Germany, France, and Italy. That is the priority.
Matteo, talk to us then about perhaps the posturing from Europe looking eastward. In the last couple of days, as European leaders digest the news from Donald Trump, there has been, especially led by the Spanish, a little bit of warmth towards a relationship with China as well, one that it feels like Ursula von der Leyen is leaning into with a visit this summer to Beijing. How should Italy be thinking about the relationship with China in the absence or potential absence of friendlier relations with the United States?
That is a risk. But that is a consequence of mistake of President Trump. My opinion is with this approach of President Trump, USA risks to lose the role as a global leader around the world. And we will go in direction of polycentric world. That is a problem because, in my opinion, the United States has the best ally we have. But if Trump decides to declare a commercial war to Europe, it's normal there is someone in Europe who try to have other markets. Of course, China and the visit of Prime Minister Sanchez last week is a signal in this direction. Of course, India. Please consider India is the most important country in terms of population, Middle East, and potentially in the future Africa. Then we will see what could happen after the end of the war in Russia. So in my opinion, with this approach of Trump, paradoxically, he risks to give an opportunity to create new alliances around the world. And that is a mistake for the United States.
Alliances on the geopolitical front, Matteo, but the argument for doing that and for leaning at least towards China specifically is that the businesses need kind of reliable supply chains and a reliable consumer base as well. As the geopolitics are figured out and the relationship on the political front is figured out and digested, are Italian businesses, do you think, prepared to kind of stop, to sit on cash, to be able to operate in an environment where the geopolitics are this volatile, or are we dealing with or looking down the barrel of a crisis the longer we wait?
It's very complicated and difficult to imagine today what could happen. But I think about Italy. I think about economy in Italy. We have 67 billion of export in United States. In my opinion, tariffs will be removed because that could be a problem in future also for both. But if those tariffs will remain in the next 90 days, I think will be normal for someone to establish manufacturing in United States, but at the same time to try to create new markets. And please don't undervalue the resiliency of the European industries. So it's normal. If this commercial war will continue, for sure everything risks to change in geopolitics. Because what the changes in the commercial world created a change in political worlds. In my opinion, as one of the best friends of the United States of America, I think we have to come back in an area of free trade, in an area in which it's normal to have a good partnership, particularly with the United States. If you think about what could happen, pharma, autos, wine, food, car industry, I think, of course, in the first period, we risk a problem. But the great problem is not the single budget, the single market. The real problem is the consequence in geopolitics of the tragedy of a break between USA and Europe. That is the reason for which I believe we will work all together to create an agreement with the Prime Minister Meloni, with the President von der Leyen, with the President Macron, but also with the Special Envoy to dialogue with President Trump and his team.
Senator Renzi, final question. A lot of people are getting very excited that Germany is going to lead Europe when it comes to spending and deliver stronger economic growth. Do you believe that currently? Do you believe that Europe is going to be better economically as a result of what is now happening in Germany? How quickly does it happen? How does that change the dynamic within Europe?
Yes, I think Germany will lead in the next years European Union. That is the history of the last decades with Angela Merkel, when I was Prime Minister, and before with Helmut Kohl. Merz is not a member of my party. He's a center-right, I'm center-left. But I think today is the most important leader Europe will show in the international stage. So I believe that is possible. That is the future. There is one problem, I believe. Germany in the last years made too much mistakes. The first with the export with China, because we gave to Chinese too much positions in the car industry with the stupid decision of Green Deal. Germany have a strong relation with Russia for energy, and they decided to close nuclear plants, and that, in my opinion, was a stupid decision. And Germany have a traditional relation with America for defense. Germany today have to reimagine the future of Berlin, because no car industry with China, no energy from Russia, and troubles with United States for defense. I think Merz could be the key leader, the real leader of European Union, if we'll be able to bring together the interest of Germany and a good relation with others, waiting for the next election in France and in Italy in 2027.
All right, Matteo Renzi, former Prime Minister of Italy, we thank you so much for joining us from Florence this morning. Talk things all about Italy ahead of Giorgia Meloni's visit to Washington, D.C., Anna.